Anomalycyra with another show, here to talk to you about a couple of things I had on my mind. So, some of us, as you may know, have to be entrepreneurial and have a couple of intermingling incomes, especially in some times like what's going on right now. They're sending people home, there's not a lot of income happening. The economy shift. For some people, they're untouched. For others, they're panicking, and everyone in between. In this way, you can feel like if you don't have enough, or if you weren't able to do something, maybe you've failed at that, or this kind of thing. So I was listening and reading into a couple of things. And it said something like, forgive me for butchering it, I may not put it correctly, but it's a psychiatrist. She said through one of her lectures that there can be failures that can still lead to successes. That makes me think of the light bulb everyone brings up. And then she also said that through taking the wrong path, you can still end up at the right place. Again, you can think of the first Walmart store was a 99-cent store. He definitely did well, but the vision of what it was did have to change and expand, but it's still affordable, but it's just not knickknacks. It's not very small stores, they're wide, but we all know what happened. So that's where this kind of, you can take a different path and still. Another one that I like is Rolls Royce. They used to sell used cars, or just they'd get a bunch of pieces and junkyard cars, which if you've had any time in the South, it's not something that is unheard of or strange people do or something. It's actually an affordable thing. You might see someone going down the street in like a Corolla car with like a Ford door or something. You piece it together, it works, it gets you from A to B. Country living. At least there wasn't a horse tied to it. And if there's a horse tied to it, well, he might get somewhere when your car breaks down. So, to me, I'm an endless optimist, so I can't really say too much on the point. But back to the topic at hand. So you can take the wrong path and end up in the right place. You can have many failures and still become a successful person. You can have a really bad chapter in your book and still end up with a really good story. So when I heard this kind of interaction, I started feeling like, I think I've got a really interesting story because there was so much pain and agony. It's really not the beautiful things, because the beautiful things, I feel like those are the things we all have in common. Like everyone had those, close moments with their father or mother, if you had a mother or father or adopted parents or, grandparents, so on and so forth. Whoever looked after you when you were young, you can try and pull one or two things. But there are those that don't have anything, which is what makes me so grateful for the little I do have. But for some people who don't have anything, I like to try and remember those who are less fortunate than us. And we hear that a lot about money, but we really don't think about all the rest of it. Like there are people who have never had a best friend. Like that's something that I got to experience in kindergarten. When you're in the Midwest, not to be that person, but I think that's a true friend. A Midwestern is your real friend, and if they're not your real friend, they're not your friend. And you know that. And we're kind of just straightforward people. We just tell you how it is. We're really nice about it. So, there I had best friends. When we moved, that was the end of that. And we just went into traveling everywhere, and there's no, if you didn't grow up from childhood with someone, it's just a different relationship. So you're just endlessly the new kid, which for me, that's amazing. So now I can sit on this podcast and talk by myself and not feel any kind of way about it. And the more I make these, the more comfortable I'm getting doing this, because you have a deep thought, you're already communicating with yourself. Let's drop down to the next layer of consciousness here. That's all very nice and superficial what we were talking about, but I want to go a little bit deeper. Okay, so when you think of it like that, and you're speaking to yourself, there was someone who taught you how to speak that way. So you have to start looking into who do you think of when I said that. Like their face comes into your mind, because our mind speaks to us with pictures. And anyone who's listening to this, we know all the psychological blibbly blabby stuff you can Google and look at a YouTube and a TikTok about. We get that. What I want you to start focusing on is the deeper layers of yourself. Because this is what we're really here for. We're here to understand ourselves because we were told we couldn't for a very long time. And in a world that we lived in, there is no rage. There are no tears. There's actually no emotions, and there's a lot of emotions, but they're like invisible. It's really a mind F-bomb. So here, I definitely want to help more of the empath, introvert type people, and I think those are the people who are listening to podcasts anyway, right? Right. So in that way, we're going to talk about some things like that. So for me, when you end up with like PTSD, and then you have people who say it, superficially, oh my God, I couldn't find that red pair of shoes that I really liked from when I was a kid. I'm having PTSD about it. I get it. I try to be, understanding that people don't understand in a strange way. To me, I feel like that's kind of hurtful to someone who actually has it, because it comes to you through something that you didn't want, need, or create. If you have PTSD, something happened to you that was all in control of someone else. You didn't go to a store to get red shoes that weren't there. Like, you don't even notice how much choice is allowed within simple things like that. When you go get a cup of water, you know that you can. Sounds funny, but there are some people who weren't allowed to use their refrigerator unless they asked first. I went to school with a kid like this, and they had all kinds of reasons and excuses and, hoopla, but at the end of the day, it kind of was still strange. Really? And, I guess kids can drink too much sugary things, but I don't know, there's something about that type of control that going over into an adult, I don't think it's going to translate well. And we don't get that. That there's a translation, not like language, but I use this word so you can try to have an understanding of where my mindset is at, where I'm explaining this to you. So when you do a translation in a language, that would be one language to the other, and then you have to infer the dialects and the meanings and the letters and all of those complexities. You're not just poof like on Google Translate. When you do it in someone's brain, it's different. So that's when you speak to people who speak more than one language, and they can, flip back and forth, and then you have some people who can't. It's different parts of your brain that are all firing at the same time, which is why they also say it's beneficial to speak more than one language. Yo también, and things like this. You should be able to throw around a couple of different languages, and it's definitely helpful. I believe that. You don't need it, but I believe it's good for the brain. You should also play piano and the violin. You can't play the piano and the violin, but I believe that it does something in your brain, and that's really nice, creating different shapes and neural pathways that you may not necessarily need, so it depends on your life path. For me, I've always been musically inclined, so I do have a piano and a guitar, and I sing and I write poetry. I'm very creative. I'm a Pisces. This is kind of just how it goes. Not that I live by horoscope. I like astrology. There's a difference. We all know, some don't. But we're going to get back to seeing yourself as something that has failed. There are all kinds of failures constantly. If you slip and fall, that was a failure of walking. Does that mean you should never get up and walk again? Just crawl from now on. Emotionally, some of us do. I have failed so many times with a lot of different things, especially like a weight loss struggle, and not with food, because that just, you have to have money to overeat. A lot of people don't get that either. It costs money to do that. Some people have hormone issues, and it's such a crazy situation those types of things are. But, thank God for the process and the little bit of progress you get here and there. I'm wearing a couple of tighter shirts. But I digress. I like to imagine myself as going towards and around, because I just don't think anything is linear. I think everything is big, beautiful, amazing spiral, with a golden spiral, that brings to thought for me. There's a movie called Pi, not that type of pie, but 3.1 for pi. It's a mathematic-based area, mathematical movie. I would say it's not for everyone. There's no superheroes. It's really about just a boring guy who's figuring out, the patterns in the world. But I would suggest a look. I think it's from the 80s, 90s. Don't quote me. I know it's like pretty old, but it's not like dusty old, so it's not the 30s. Maybe 70s. I'll try to double back around with that and make sure I link that down below. Start doing my YouTube channel links for everyone once I start getting videos and followers and stuff like that. This is still the beginning. There aren't even any plays on these episodes. I'm just starting to put them out whenever the thoughts kind of come to me. I don't know if I really like the word content, but I know I need to fit into some kind of box so I can be discovered. So in that way, this is a philosophical, theory-based, sometime character story podcast. If you didn't already know, 10 minutes, 12 minutes in. Some of these are short and sweet because, again, like, we're kind of just, beta for all my gamers out there. But this is just kind of the beta version. We're seeing, like, do people, not really like my voice or my interaction with you or how I think about things or, any kind of hate comments. That's when we made it. Right now, we're kind of invisible, so we're here. This is okay. I'm really hoping, like, looking in the future, where I have, like, a talk show and I'm, like, doing really good things for humanity, and I feel like I really want to do something for orphans because my mother is an orphan. She was adopted, but she's an orphan who got adopted way later in life. So I always wanted to do something for orphans and that kind of thing. It feels like they're like not a real person, but they are. They have stories, they have lives. They just don't really have anyone to tell. And in that way, I'd like to have something to do with that. Maybe in the future, I'll be a part of that in some kind of way. I digress. And deeper, it's great that we can have aspirations in our future. But in our moment to moment, we can feel like we're constantly failing. Like, oh, I didn't do this, that's a fail. Oh, I didn't do that, that's a fail. You have to check yourself. You have to make sure you're not doing that. It's so easy to slip into. You can really get into this is wrong, that's wrong, this can be better. Perfectionist mind cycle. And my anxiety drives me crazy with it and tells me all day long that there's everything I could do better. And why, this should be better and that. And I get that. But for me, I understand that there's like a TV playing in the background in the mind, and it's just throwing everything at you. Those are your insecurities. It wants to get them out. So for me, I want to just break that TV screen and let all those thoughts flow out and set them free like poltergeists. They're just like evil ghosts that have to foosh by. Oh, you don't look that great today. Foosh. Just watch it go by. Like, wow, that was mean. Oh, you could have did this better. Man, you're moody today. And all this happens inside of you. So within that thought, it could have took a second to have that interaction with yourself. This is not something you have to sit and do on meditation for hours, listen to this tape, buy my book. No. Maybe in the future. Right now, just listen to this and do that. Sets you free, slowly. It's like one arm out of the prison cell. Not free yet. Almost there. Keep reaching. You have to keep stretching. And you don't have to. You can give up whenever you want to. Just remember, you don't. You're the one that doesn't want to give up. You set forth in your alignment and in your vortex that you want freedom. Freedom will come to you. there is a price. There's always a price. The universe must take its pound of flesh, as it were. And that means losing so many things. But I don't think we ever lose anything when I look at it that way. Energy never dies. It's only transformed. We hold too tightly. We grasp too much. And then I think of those that don't grasp. What if you're in my vortex of how I've had to deal with things where you had to be strong endlessly. Anything else is weakness. This is a different thing about being multicultural. You're not allowed to have those types of emotions or feelings, and I don't really see anyone talking about that. Not in a scream at you, don't cry. But there's just a knowing that crying isn't going to help me. Very logical. I would say like a lot of people from like Norway, Finland, you get that there's no just breaking down and crying on a floor about something. You have an emotion, yes, you feel sadness and pain like any other human, but your actions that are connected to that emotion are simply maybe possibly standing there with one tear and then you're kind of, that's it. At some point, you're lucky if you get a tear and you feel all that pain. And that's just how it stays. Everyone doesn't need to be cured, fixed, and put into some kind of cubicle for all of us to understand. So I also want to speak for those of us who are not cold-hearted, but they simply were never taught the beauty in the breakdown, in the falling apart, the building that happens. How do you all of our construction knowing people, how do you set a new platform? You have to break everything down, drag it all out, piping, wiring, everything goes. And when they say everything, they mean everything. So you can't hold on to anything. And it's impossible. It feels impossible. You're asking me to let go of the universe. But when I ask you that, I tell you to remember, you are floating in the middle of space. You are already not holding on to anything. And it is in the knowing that you should and shall be set free. You can't hear the words yet, but the more you listen to it, repeat on play a few times, listen to this. You are already weightless, boundless, limitless. That's a better word. You are a limitless being. Yes, in your human form you have gravity, you have laws from your government and state. This is understandable, but this is your superficial self in your body. The state only owns your body. There are no transmissions on the spirit and the soul. So we will remember that that belongs to you, yours and yours alone. And that is the beauty of being with yourself, you and your soul. Spending time together, interaction, knowing yourself, this is how you become the best you. And that is the best for all of us. Be that example that we need to know and see. There are so many people afraid of themselves, afraid of the world, afraid of everything else. Remember to embrace yourself in that alone, in that quiet, in the isolation. There is beauty. There is you. We're going to wrap it up there. I like to keep these to about 20 minutes or so for right now. We'll come back, check on some new ideas, update some other ones. I may come across some new information and present it to you in a completely different way. We're going to see what you like and what you don't, because I'm here for you. And this is Anomalycyra. We'll speak again soon. Bye.